How's it going, guys? I'm Robert from Machado Visuals, and I wanted to break down a few looks from a film I recently shot in LA. It's a short called Cotton Candy Breakfast and was written and directed by my friend Olivia, who I actually marched with back in my drum corps days. So the first scene I want to talk about is this night exterior on a football field, which is actually where most of the film takes place. These were some of our exact references, and we really liked how there were very clear levels of contrast. Most of the time, stadium lights just flood the entire field, so to make the environment more visually interesting, we threw up a 12 by neg right behind camera to cut off any of the near side stadium lights on our talent, and primarily keyed with a Vortex 8 going through a frame of 250, which ended up carrying us most of the way. I took a color reading of the ambient color temperature and plopped those measurements into our light, so it felt like more of an extension of that metal halide look that was motivated by the stadium lights. Every now and then we flew in a DMG dash, which are these really amazing little pocket lights that I'll often sneak in as fill or as an easy catch light.
Okay, baby.
So we'll just
That's what you want.
Our next day was at the same field, and the idea was to capture a bunch of vignettes that are kind of spread over across an entire summer tour, but the weather had other plans.
Hello! We're now towards the end of our day 2 of filming Cotton Candy Breakfast, and it's pouring rain. But you know what? We've been here since 5 a.m. and we're almost done, and we've been pushing through. Took us 3 hours to get to Starbucks, but it tastes good, so we don't care. And everyone's working super hard, and the morale is up there, I would say. And yeah, we're just making some good shit happen.
Pitching.
It was pretty bananas how wet it was that day. There wasn't a ton we were able to do from a lighting perspective since everything was pretty flat and overcast. So we used mainly weather-resistant lights like Vortexes and an M18, but I think we were able to extract a few different looks that could be perceived as different days. It also goes to show just how much latitude the Mini LF has in post to go for either a really warm sunny look or rather lean into that cooler rainy vibe. Also, shout out to REI for that sweet primo rain gear. Alright, so there were a handful of shots where we used no lights at all and just relied on shaping natural daylight with neg, and some of those just happened to be some of my favorite setups, simply because they were so simple. Free light is some of the best light, and if you adjust your blocking accordingly, you can get away with some pretty simple looks by just shaping what's naturally there. Also, if you want, feel free to follow my dog on Instagram, @dogwinnie. She's kind of a big deal. This next scene was in a bar where our main character reacts to someone walking in, and we just flew in a light mat overhead with a menace arm and a Lico splashing into the bar for a bit of a turn, and I think we brought in a single Astera tube to edge our talent and kind of separate her from the background a little bit more. Since someone was supposed to be entering the bar, we actually opened the door to introduce cool daylight into the scene, which cooled down a lot of the shadows, and it was a really nice contrast to the warmer base that our lights were set to. And to help accentuate that color contrast, I set the camera to 4000 Kelvin, so our warm lights would appear warmer and daylight would appear cooler. To actually get the shot of our mysterious figure walking into the bar, I took a page out of Larkin Seipel's book From Everything Everywhere, with the cool daylight washing out the frame and coming only into focus when he lands on his mark. For this, we just used a sky panel with a Shimira at around 6500 Kelvin with a little bit of green to retain that cooler look. I initially tried using a warmer color temp, but it looked way too sourcey, and so by cooling off the light, it felt a lot more natural to me. Last look I want to talk about is this bathroom scene where we're in a bit of a daze with our main character, and all we used was the same light mat setup set to a much cooler color temp. We used the louver and skirted the sides to keep it from spilling all over the walls and jacked it up to 100% intensity because we were going in and out of slow motion for this scene. I wanted this scene to feel a little grittier than the rest, so I rated the camera at 1600 EI to kind of emphasize that noise texture from the Mini LF, which is probably going to be lost on YouTube anyway, and even on the LF still feels remarkably clean.
I love this camera so much.
Hopefully this video is helpful in some way. It was super fun getting to work on narrative for once, and I had a fantastic camera and lighting team behind me. I truly would not have been able to do this project without them. The film is about to enter post and do the whole film festival circuit thing, but I'll be sure to share it whenever it becomes available. If you want to see the extended behind the scenes from this project or any other work from my professional life, consider checking out my new Patreon page, where all my posts are going to be free for the month of April. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.